Now, we gotta let the stream breathe for just a second here and make sure that everything is nice and stable all across the YouTube platform. Make sure that everything is processing and up to speed. Looks like we are all good, guys. Welcome in. Whew! Man, the Denver Broncos, it was an ugly win, but regardless, they find a way to win 29-19 over the Las Vegas Raiders. Their first sweep over the Raiders since 2014. Their first win on the road against the Raiders since 2015. This was an ugly game. This was an ugly win, but an ugly win is still a win, and the Broncos now have a 2-game advantage over the rest of the AFC that's competing with them for the 7th seed. They've got a 2-game lead over Miami. They've got a multiple game lead over Indianapolis. This was a huge win for the Broncos' playoff chances. They definitely had moments where they did not deserve to win this game. At halftime, they were down 13-6. It just was ugly. They struggled there in the first half. They had too many penalties in the first half on offense that called back some big runs. On defense in the first half, they were struggling to generate any pressure. The lack of presence from Zach Allen in this game definitely was felt. It was apparent early and often. The Broncos finally were able to generate some pressure starting in the third quarter, where Jonathan Cooper hit Gardner Minshew when he was throwing the ball, and the ball ended up getting intercepted. It was a high throw from Minshew that got intercepted by Brandon Jones. That was something that was really good to see. It was a turnover that shifted the momentum of the game. I thought offensively there were some rough play calls there in the second half. The second to last offensive sequence where the Broncos threw the ball multiple times instead of running the ball and trying to get the Raiders to burn their timeouts. I don't understand that, but ultimately Denver was able to come away with a very lucky win. Part of it was due to Gardner Minshew exiting the game at the end there. I really hope that Minshew is okay. That was a scary-looking shoulder injury that he suffered. I really hope that it's nothing long-term for Minshew. Once Desmond Ridder came into that game, I knew that it was over. He made a couple of nice throws. He put them down. They had a position to try to score right there at the end to put him down by only one score, but ultimately it didn't matter. The Broncos were just in a position at the end there. Desmond Ridder wasn't going to win that game for him. So, yeah, man, it's an ugly win. The Broncos had way too many unacceptable penalties in this game. They burned all of their timeouts in the second half prior to 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. That was inexcusable. Way too many times they broke the huddle late and they weren't getting the play calls in an efficient, timely manner. They were having to burn timeouts with 1 second on the play clock in order to avoid delay of games. That's not good. That has to be cleaned up. I think overall Broncos country is a little bit disappointed with how this game ended up, regardless of Denver winning. But still, the Broncos picking up this win really does put them in way more comfortable position to make the playoffs after that. And that's huge, man. It really is huge. Gardner Minshew, he was dealing there in that first half. I thought that he played really well. The Broncos were living by the sword of man coverage, as they always do, but they weren't really holding up. I thought that they had a couple of plays where, why are you putting Jonah Ellis, an edge rusher, on a running back out of the backfield in man coverage? I just don't understand that. They gave up a touchdown with that. That was inexcusable. Also, I thought Jaquan McMillan had a pretty rough game. I thought that he gave up a couple of big plays in man coverage, so that overall was not good. The Broncos were able to hold strong there defensively in that second half. They held them to only scoring 6 points, a couple of field goals. That was it. They did march downfield there towards the end, but the game was already over at that point. There was no way that Desmond Ridder was going to put the Raiders in position to win that game. The Broncos, after going up by 2 scores, definitely could breathe a big-time sigh of relief. I know that Broncos country is going to be frustrated with some of the results of this game, just the way that they played, the sloppiness of their overall play. But at the end of the day, they found a way to win. They found a way to overcome their own sloppiness. They found a way to force a big-time turnover there against the Raiders. And just like in the last matchup against the Raiders in Week 5, it was a big-time turnover, a Gardner Minshew mistake that led to an interception that broke open the entire game, and that's ultimately how that happened. We've got Robert in the house saying, what should I watch for the replay on the replay via Red Zone? I would definitely watch for the interception by Gardner Minshew. Jonathan Cooper had some big-time pressure there. Nick Bonito with his big-time sack there towards the end of the game. Bonito is now up to 10 sacks on the year. It was a sack fumble on Desmond Ridder. That was absolutely fantastic. That basically is what called game right there. And then you had the last sack on the final play of the game by Jonah Ellis to call it. Sorry, I'm kind of losing my voice. A little too much cheering there, but Broncos were able to finally generate some pass rush and generate some pressure there in the second half. They missed Zach Allen. Not having Zach Allen out there definitely hurt them, but they found a way to overcome it, and that's what good football teams do. They find a way to overcome their own self-inflicted wounds. They find a way to overcome moments where the opposition is out-coaching you. I thought on special teams in particular, the Broncos got out-coached. At first, I thought it was Tom McMahon, but I had forgotten that McMahon was fired along with Luke Getsy. So the assistant special teams coach had taken over, and he called a good game. The fake punt by the Raiders was really well executed. They had the big punt return as well. So overall, I thought that the Raiders definitely outplayed the Broncos on special teams. That was frustrating to see, but the Raiders overcome it. Funny enough, they're actually showing that on the replay right there. The Broncos found a way, and that's what good teams do. That's what playoff teams do. I know that this wasn't a playoff team-worthy performance today, but they found a way to win. That's what matters. A Nick Bonito sack makes the entire game watch-worthy, absolutely, and that was the big play that basically sealed it there for the Broncos. Jonah Ellis with that last play as well, that was nice. Only reason I could see for passing at the end of the game would be to get Nix over 300 yards again. You can't play that like that, and I know Bo Nix doesn't give two craps about getting over 300 yards. He cares about winning the football game. That was just questionable play calling in my opinion. I have been a staunch defender of Sean Payton's play calling, and overall, I didn't think the play calling was bad today. But there were some play calls individually that left you scratching your head, and that sequence there at the end of the game where they were throwing the ball, that left me a little bit perplexed. Overall, I thought Sean called a really solid football game. That design to get Marvin Mims that wheel route out of the backfield for a big explosive play, that was awesome, Broncos country. I don't think that Sean Payton is washed up as a play caller or that he's forgotten how to call an offense or anything like that. But there are just these plays here and there that do leave you a little bit perplexed and just kind of leave you scratching your head a little bit. Again, I think Sean Payton is still one of the best play callers and play sequencers in the NFL. There's just some of these moments where it just kind of gets away from him a little bit. They're not playing for stats necessarily. It's a bet or guess that Las Vegas Vegas's run defense, but still, man, I just think that you need to try to get them to burn their timeouts. It's all mood at the end of the day. The Broncos won the game. That's all that matters. But it's some of these little execution things that could come back to bite you against a team not named the Raiders. One thing that really rubbed me the wrong way was the Broncos having to burn those timeouts. They burned an early timeout in the first half, and then they burned all 3 timeouts prior to 6 minutes in the fourth quarter. That's inexcusable. They've got to find a way to get the play calling in a more timely manner. They've got to find a way to speed up and streamline that operation, because that's going to come back to bite you against a team like the Chargers, who later on in the year when the Broncos play them, that's going to be a game that the Broncos probably are really going to need, especially with Miami starting to rise up the ranks. If Cincinnati can get their stuff together. Indianapolis, they lost today, so that was good news for the Broncos. That's something the Broncos just cannot get away with later on in the season. They've got to find a way to clean that stuff up. But regardless, the Broncos are now 2 games ahead of everybody else that is challenging them for that 7th seed. Basically, all the Broncos have to do from this point forward is not F it up, and they are in the playoffs. In this game, they were in danger of doing that, but they do have a little bit of cushion now. They can afford to drop a game to the Chargers and still get into the playoffs. I really do believe that 6 losses will probably still get you in. Hell, even 7 losses might still get you in. The Denver Broncos are in excellent shape right now with this win. This win gave them some comfort. That win against Atlanta last week gave them some much needed comfort. And now we can start actually looking at some of these other scenarios where the Broncos could maybe even raise up their seeding and not get in as the 7th seed, but maybe even the 6th or even the 5th seed. That would be awesome. It really would. Passing game is getting better, but the run game is up and then down. Overall, I thought the run blocking was definitely subpar in this game. I thought that Luke Wattenberg was a sore spot on that offensive line. Multiple times, I saw him on the ground, on his behind, just absolutely dump trucked. That's unacceptable. Sorry I keep looking down at my phone. I'm trying to wait to see if Sean Payton is up on the podium yet. But we saw multiple times Luke Wattenberg getting absolutely dump trucked in the run game. I can't live with that. If that's going to continue, then you might as well insert Alex Forsyth. Sure, Forsyth might give you a lower floor as a starting center, but he gives you a higher ceiling, and he's not going to get dump trucked in the run game every single play. Wattenberg was not good today, and that overall contributed to the struggles in the run game. Javonte Williams still has his issues with his vision and his overall burst and explosiveness. I wanted to see more Audric Estime in this game. Jaleel McLaughlin, to his credit, was definitely the best Broncos running back today. He provided some key explosive runs, even had a couple of big runs that were called back because of holding penalties. One guy who definitely deserved some crap today for how he played was Mike McGlinchey. Mike McGlinchey was responsible for 3 penalties, 2 holding penalties, and a false start. That's something that has to get cleaned up. Too many penalties, too much sloppiness, and just too many self-inflicted wounds for the Broncos in this game. Again, they can get away with that kind of stuff against bad opponents, but they can't get away with that kind of stuff against good football teams. It's something that has to be cleaned up. It's that simple. Robert says, I'm done with Javonte, sadly. No more. I had been done with Javonte for the last several weeks. Even when he shows those mirages, those flashes in the pan, it's just not consistent enough. And ultimately, Audric Estime has showed more in terms of consistency and in terms of burst, explosiveness, and vision. So I want to see more Audric Estime. The run blocking does have to get better, and if there's one position in particular that's a real weakness for this Broncos offensive line, it is the center position. Jason says, go Denver, wife and I love your channel. I've been following you when you only had 800 subs. Wow. We are trying to push to 5,000 subscribers, just like Jason is saying here, though, guys. So if you guys have yet to subscribe to the channel, I would really appreciate it. Let's look and see how many subscribers we need to get to 5K. We are getting really, really close. Yeah, man, so we need less than 40 subscribers. We need 33 subscribers in order to get to 5,000. That's very attainable by the end of the day. So if you guys have yet to subscribe to the channel, I would really appreciate it. It's free, it's easy, it only takes a second to do, and it helps us out a ton. Let's see, I think Sean's up. Sean's up. All right, guys. I'm going to go ahead and dip out of this stream so I can bring you guys the press conference streams. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please be sure to leave a like on this stream as well as subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate it, guys. Those are both free and easy ways to show your support. Helps tell YouTube's algorithm to push us out and helps us get seen by more and more members of Broncos country just like you and me. Stay tuned for the press conferences from Sean Payton and Bo Nix, and stay tuned for videos after this stream. And until next time, guys, I'm your host, Gage Madrid, saying